Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the exciting event, AI, the Power of Opportunity talk session. Today, we gather to explore the sorry, to explore the ever-evolving world of artificial intelligence, a field that is continued to shape the way we live, work, and interact with technologies. First of all, let me welcome Ms. Frincy Clement, who is the Ambassador for Canada Women in AI, Principal Data Scientist at ADP. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next, let me welcome all the fellow participants who are gathered here. Welcome all. So today's session is also conducted with the support of the SCT Alumni North America session. So the SCT Alumni North America has been a constant support for the events and the other opportunities we have got throughout the IEEE SCT SB. So let me welcome the other members of the SCT North American. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to confirm if this is a video recording or is it just audio only call before I proceed.
I can keep my video on, but
no, that's fine. I just wanted to confirm. I don't need like at all for you to turn on the video, but it's just I just want to understand whether it is like audio only event or not. That's it. So I wanted to understand one more thing. Are you planning to record? Then, if you please hit record so you don't miss it. Okay. Awesome. So thank you for having me in this call, and I'm very happy to be here talking to all of you and sharing my thoughts and my experience on my journey into AI and what I've been working on, or also give you like a AI 101 today to basically share what I understand. But of course, I'm not the best expert or anything, but I'll share what I know. And if you have questions, you can ask in the end as well. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and let me know if you're able to see. Okay, awesome. Okay, so yeah, just to start, like I'm currently working as a principal data scientist at ADP. It is a global company currently based out of Toronto now. I also lead the Canadian chapter for Women in Artificial Intelligence, which is a nonprofit global community of women AI professionals. And our goal is to increase female participation in AI. And I have over 9 years of experience. I worked in Dubai and then moved to Canada. I worked in India also initially. And over the course of time, I started my career in business and then later transitioned into data science. My undergrads, which is the BTech Computer Science, I got it from SCT. And after that, I did an MBA from IIM Kozhikode. And after that, I completely switched my career to business. I worked in business for some time. Later in Canada, I figured that a career in data science would have been much better because it is very difficult to get the credibility that you need, even for an IIM degree, in a location like Alberta, where I was actually living. So I transitioned my career into data science with another master's from University of Alberta, and that kind of helped me to like break the career, like that transition, and get into a job in the AI space. So again, this is just a picture about what women in AI is. I'm not going to talk too much into it, but we do a lot of events and activities basically to help educate, mentor, connect women or any AI professionals who's interested to pursue or advance their career in AI. This is a global community, so there is also like an APAC presence. So there is also community in India. If you are interested in joining, volunteering or just joining the events, and most of the things we do are free. We are all 100% volunteer and community. We do this out of the passion of building a more inclusive future for AI, because today only 18% of AI researchers are, globally are women. So let's talk about the topic for today, which is artificial intelligence, and why we need to talk about it, because it has become one of the most discussed topics around the world in a matter of few months. Whether it is like corporates, startup, boardrooms, school kids, even in family get-togethers, you're hearing about AI, hearing about ChatGPT, or all those new fancy terms that we come across. I wanted to begin with a little bit of stats around like what is the AI market that is looking at this point, which is in 2022 you can see that it was at 69 billion, and it is expected to hit around 1.8 trillion. So we're expecting like a huge growth year over year in the next 10 years. And AI is going to become a huge boosting factor for economies, whether it is India, China, North America. It is all going to be part of a huge part of their GDP. Now, all these recent buzz about AI has been, even though AI existed for the past maybe 40, 60 years, deep learning came in the last 40 years for the first time. And then a lot of these recent buzz that got everybody talking was basically democratization of AI by opening up generative AI technology through ChatGPT. So if you look at the impact of generative AI market itself, you can understand that we are in the next 10 years, it can have an at least 6% boost in the global GDP. That is approximately $7 trillion, and also a global productivity increase of 1.5%. So there has been always like evolution of jobs, evolution of the task and things. Whenever there's a technology disruption, and AI is going to do the same thing, there will be employment growth. There will be like evolution in terms of like what task we do. Maybe probably a couple of years back, you might be looking at business analyst, data analyst kind of roles. Now there's a lot of data scientists, data engineers, ML ops, DevOps. There are so many different variations of things, especially because we started maybe with SQL, Excel sheets, and then moved towards like cloud platforms and automated platform, Kubernetes, and all of that. So for an individual, like even if you're not a technical person in AI, your task can also get automated, whether you're in marketing or customer success, or like any of your daily things that you do could get automated, because that's the impact that these new advanced technologies could have in your daily lives. This doesn't mean that our jobs are affected, but the jobs are more enhanced or evolved to make sure that AI is becoming like a part of our, automation process. Some tasks can get automated. So if you look at the AI adoption as well, it clearly shows that majority, maybe 77% of the businesses across the globe, if you look at like, China, India, they are all at the forefront of adopting and evolving and utilizing AI. So before I go into details, I just want to give an overview about what are the different terminologies that we see in AI and how they are similar or different from each other. So if you look at artificial intelligence, it's more like an umbrella term where we say it looks at the intelligence of machines so that it can perform tasks that are commonly done by humans. So AI is like an umbrella term, and machine learning is a subset of AI where the machine learns itself. So we give the required things to the machine learns itself, and then it can do things on its own. Deep learning is a further subset of machine learning where to train the models, we use artificial neural networks. So those are like very little bit more complex than your traditional algorithm. Everything goes back to still it's an algorithm. It's still a it is still some sort of maths and computer science combined, but uh, as it goes into deep learning, it gets more complex and more unexplainable compared to the traditional algorithms. So you have data science, which is like a multidisciplinary field where you can use any of these techniques. It can be like your traditional ML or your traditional programming or your deep learning, but still try to solve business use cases based on what data, what use cases available to you. So generally, what's the difference between the traditional programming and machine learning is that for a traditional programming, you give the data, you give the rules, do X, Y, Z on the data, and you get the rules. Sorry, you get the answers out of it. But in machine learning, you provide the data, and this is the expected answer. And then the machine will figure out what rules you need to have to get those answers. And when it gets a new data, it kind of predicts the answers itself. So that's how machine learning works. Now, machine learning is again divided into like three types: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. So if you know, so in supervised, basically what happens is like, so we have the data and which is labeled data sets. We call it labeled because we know we have a portion of data where we know the answers basically, and we train the models with those data and answers, and it actually creates those rules. So we can predict on the new ones. In unsupervised, we do not have a labeled data set. So for example, we have like pictures of cat and dog, or pictures of, cancer CT scan, or, your PET scan or anything like that. And then, but it's not labeled. We don't know whether that particular picture has cancer cells or not. So in those scenarios, we cannot do supervised. We have to do unsupervised learning. So what we do is we try to find patterns between the samples. So when there is patterns between the samples, you can do clustering and understand, okay, these patterns are clubbed together. So these could be more, non-cancerous, and these could be more cancerous cells. So that is the main difference between like supervised, unsupervised. Then you have like reinforcement learning, which is basically behind, the robotics and all of that. Like I've never worked with reinforcement learning, but overall, the method works on rewarding positive behaviors and punishing undesirable ones. So the machines works to maximize those rewards, the net reward. So that's how we train the models or train the robots to do a certain things in a certain way. Is there any question, or can we go? We're still in the early part of the presentation. So I can quickly cover a few use cases or applications on the AI in marketing side. I've worked mostly on the marketing kind of use cases. So, starting from a time where a marketer reaches out to a customer trying to generate demand. So it can be your ads or your, any kind of like social media ads or like your Google ads or anything like that, and then trying to bring them to the point of sale, which is point of sale can be a website, your or your brick and mortar, like it can be a physical store. And then you create the demand, you make them purchase something, and then do repeat purchase, and then make them loyal customers, and then keep them there and not make them leave that whole as a consumer. In all of these different phases, there are many different types of AI applications being used. So for example, you must have come across like recommendation systems through, like when you browse Amazon, you will get product recommendations. Or there are some scoring models that is behind the scene called as propensity models, where it only shows those ads to those people who are most likely to purchase. Instead of showing some discounts to like all of your like 10 million customers, you only show those discounts to specific ones. So behind all of this, there is some sort of algorithm that works, and I can quickly show you like the two types of use cases that we generally see, which is one is recommendation system. So there are two types of methods to build, or like traditionally to build recommendation system. There could be more. So we call as collaborative filtering and then content-based filtering. So in collaborative filtering, so what you see here is basically you're trying to understand similarity between the users. So once you understand, yes, there is similarity between the users because they have purchased few items which make them similar. And if one of those customer end up purchasing a new one, then this new product is also recommended to the others in that group. So that's called as collaborative filtering. Now you also have
So I have a
content-based.
question here. So how do you get the data for this? Like, is it provided? Like, does a customer opt into this information,
Yeah.
or?
So it really depends on what application this is being run on. So for example, if it's a e-commerce store, right? We know what the customers purchased. So we have the order history. We know what all they viewed. So we also know the intent or interest of the customers. So there are many factors that is taken into consideration while building the similarity. So it's not just ordering, it can be a few more like demographics, because they have a profile with Amazon, for example, or they know how many purchases they've historically tracked, they know where they're located, they know their shipping address. So there's a lot of things that is available to them. But if you're just browsing through, there might not be a lot of information available like this. But they look at the trend. So this particular customer went and looked at in this sort of trend historically, and then they ended up purchasing this. That kind of record is there. And that is the pattern that they use to do a new recommendation. And so this can be smaller or bigger in complexity depending on the use case and product. So what I'm showing you here, it could be a small application where it can be like for example, we used to have we used to, like I worked in a telecom where we used to know that this group of customers have these kind of products. So if the other people in that group does not have X, Y, and Z, we offer that to them. That is algorithmically possible. So we have that data because they are a customer with us, or we have their browsing history with us.
Okay, thanks.
Now, content-based filtering is very similar to this, but we look at like similarity in the products rather than similarity in the users. So, for example, there are different types of products available, and we group them together based on some particular similarity. And if one person purchase a product in that category, we recommend a similar product, which is not exactly same, but a similar product that could be grouped together, which can help this customer enhance this experience, also recommended. So for example, if you browse through Amazon, like you added something, or when you scroll down, you say it goes with this and this, you can add this as a bunch. It can be a discounted offer, or this can be something that complements that product. So those kind of, that's another use case. So the propensity modeling, it's another type of application or other type of algorithm that is used in variety of applications. So this can be used in loyalty retention or dynamic, pricing, or prospect or lead scoring. So basically what this does is it reduces your full population into a smaller subset who are highly likely to do certain actions. So for example, you have like a million customers. You want to offer a particular discount, but you don't want to offer to the million customers and end up like losing money on the the targeting and advertisement, because it costs a lot to reach to that million customers. But you only want to target those customers who are highly likely to purchase. It could be just 10,000 people. It could be just like 100,000 people in that. So this propensity modeling, what it does is looks at the transactions, it looks at the demographics, it looks at whatever features we give them, and then it ranks the customers in a 0 to 1 value, and the higher values are taken, and then we advertise only to those people. So we save in advertising money, and we are making sure that we are not losing the customers who are highly likely to do that particular action, which can be buying a product or not leaving a company, or taking a discount, or whatever the use cases. So yeah, the time is limited to, I'll quickly skip on this one, AI in education. I just wanted to just talk about one more, another industry or sector. AI is used in multiple places, multiple industry, in multiple ways. So in education, for example, like they're used in adaptive learning. So for example, instead of having like a static course path given to given equally to everybody, AI can assist in creating guided instruction experience. So for example, based on the skill set, based on the time that a person takes to complete, so it can suggest, recommend different pathways of learning. There is this assistive technology. So for example, if somebody wants to, somebody is visually impaired, instead of like using like braille or anything like that, they can use the help of AI to read out the textbooks to them, so they can hear and learn. And then there are lots, like if you use Grammarly on an everyday basis, like it helps, it suggests a recommended language to you. So that's another application in AI. And yeah, and I do want to touch upon what is basically the most exciting part for everybody these days, which is generative AI. And what basically is generative AI. So AI, generative AI, like from a definition perspective, any algorithm that can be used to create new content. The content can be audio, video, images, text, or like scripts, or anything. And today it has become like a mainstream topic, mainly because ChatGPT came. It was very simple UI to use, and people got their hands on it. Previously, it was behind like a huge technology barrier. Today, because of that UI, people got access to it, and then the API is open source, so they could start using the API and build products on their own. So it really democratized and became the talk of the town. So I again, just talking about like what is behind generative AI, or how is it different from traditional AI that I explained before. So um, these generative AI is being built on something called as foundation models. It is like a very complex, large neural network systems, which is trained on structured, unstructured, different types of data. So it has requires a lot of resources, lot of data, like million terabytes, those amounts of data. And then it can be used for a wide range of tasks. So in traditional AI, you normally take one model, one type of data set, or one like structure, unstructured, and then you produce outputs for one use case. But foundation models can do multiple use cases. So for example, ChatGPT, it can do text summarization. If you give a big paragraph and ask it to summarize, it will give you that. If you just ask a question, ask it to give you the data, so question answering is possible. And each of them are different tasks that's not achievable all in one in traditional AI, because this model has been trained on multiple types of data and to answer in different ways. That's how it is able to do that. And not just text, image generation, image, extract information from the images, or creating scripts, because that particular model is being trained on scripts. So those are the main differences. And yeah, you must have already heard about like ChatGPT and must have used it, but there is also like image generator. This is a snapshot from Midjourney, where we give a prompt like tiny, cute, adorable ginger tabby in a studio light. So there's prompt engineering these days has been a thing. Like how you give your prompt really helps you get a better output as you need it. So if here you've specified it has to be tiny, it has to be this lighting and all of it. So it's amazing to see the outputs that generative AI, like these kind of tools can produce. Here it creates we talked about having like a 3D image, and this resolution, these colors, this should be abstract. So those kind of prompts are given.
Yeah,
It can go.
I think the students should actually go and do this because it's free. At least the first 100 image generations are free. I recently tried it out. You just have to go through Discord and join the Midjourney group, and you will be able to generate some of these. So I encourage kids to do this.
Okay, awesome. Um, yeah, so this is again more complex. Like we are specifically saying it should be this shape, this should be pattern. So as as you understand, like this is again more complex. So like as you learn to do the prompts yourself, you should be able to like go into depth and create things that at the end of the day, I am almost sure that all the copyrights still belong. um, does not You do not get any copyright of any of these images generated. You do not have any rights. If you have to use for a corporate or like a commercial thing, I believe you might have to opt their commercial license. And but it's still, there is a lot of lawsuits going on, because these images are generated out of the millions of images which are owned by others and trained without their consent. So because those are all copyrighted data, it could be copyrighted data, the source images. So there's a lot of lawsuits going on too. So always approach things with a caution on how you're using these outputs as well. But to like learn the product and everything, this is great. So OpenAI recently also released ChatGPT in a different format as well. So far you have been like doing like chats with ChatGPT, but now you can also engage in a voice and image, and it is only available for the ChatGPT Plus users at this point. It's just like 2 weeks ago, maybe they released it. So if you want the same questions that you're asking in the chat, you can speak to them and it'll speak back to you. And if you have more questions, like you can attach an image and then ask the question. So it'll interpret the image and then the questions together, and then can give you the answers. Again, like this is again very early stage right now. The accuracy and everything can be very low as well, but at least we know that it is advancing in capabilities. So again, like some summary of a lot of these different applications, whether it is image, audio, code based, test based, all of that. I'm not gonna go into details, but if you are using any of these in a daily life, It could be a good personal assistant to you. Like, for example, if you want to like write an email template, I'm preparing for a job, like writing a resume. See, it can give you like general guidelines based on the prompts, but you take that content and then um, then customize it for yourself and make it yours. So whatever they give might not be the best accurate answers. This is not, ChatGPT is not a fact checking machine. You use it for your personal use cases, no sensitive information, no organization information, because unless you're using the paid version, the enterprise version or something, they take the data back to train their model. So I recommend that you do not use any of this sensitive information to be added. There is a lot of biases and risk in generative AI. Since we are talking about it, I do want to mention that as well, because it is not perfect technology. It is still in the very nascent stages. I mean, AI is in the nascent stages overall, but generative AI is also highly biased because the data that is being fed to train these models are also highly biased. There is no specific guidelines, guardrails that is being put in place to validate the data in a human way, like with humans involved, but this is mostly like scraped from the website and added. So Bloomberg did a study to understand like what is that extent of bias that is there in some of these tools. So they looked at like 7 jobs which are high paying, 7 jobs low paying, and then they asked Stable Diffusion, which is another image generator, to create faces. So high paying jobs like, architect, lawyer, CEO, all of that, and low paying jobs like teacher, housekeeper, cashier, all of that. And then related to crime. And then they categorize the results into like skin color and also perceived gender. So the study shows that like all these high paying jobs were given to more, like the images generated were more on the lighter skin tone, and low paying jobs on the darker skin tone. I mean, this could be mostly like the US data and all of it. So I'm not specifically talking about India population. This could be like a very Western data specifically. But even then, if you look at like social workers, fast food workers, like you could see a lot of darker skin tone. And the same thing with the perceived gender. So high paying jobs are all generating images with more like perceived gender man, versus low paying jobs are mostly showing that perceived gender women are the ones who is more represented in those kind of images. So what it really tells you is that this is like an average face that the tool generated. So they average the face based on like location of eyes, nose, and everything. So if you look at architect, it looks more like men, versus low paying jobs, it just more transitioned into female kind of face. So these are like some of the sample images that were generated, especially for, I believe this is a CEO one, and you can hardly find any females. But even though worldwide, I believe like 10% out of the Fortune 500 companies, 50 companies are led by female CEOs. But even that 10% is not being shown here. It can be like 3% or less than that. So it is not really reflecting. Of course, we know there is this gender disparity and bias in the system. But even though the system has that one particular figure, which is 10%, the data shows that it is even much lesser than that. So that is the outputs that is produced are very biased. On the other hand, for like, this could be a social worker one, you could see like mostly women, mostly darker skin tones are being shown here. So what it does is that, it's not just creating an image which is highly biased, but at the same time, it's creating these images which are artificially generated based on the inputs given. And this could be an input to new models. And then it just that exponentially increases the bias in the outputs. and it will never become representative. It will never become useful for a wider audience and can harm the results that it is expected to do. So there is also like a lot of risk that Geoffrey Hinton, Dr. Yosha Bencho, these are all like called as they are actually from Canada. They are called as godfathers of deep learning. They're Turing Award recipients. They are all actually having like this so much voice these days to talk about the threats that can be caused because of the rapid development. It could lead to bias, as we talked about, unemployment, or like fake news, because we did not have things in place to really say this is wrong, this is right, or like responsible way of doing things. So there's a lot of talks around using responsible AI in the international, global, like federal government, all these policies. So I'm not going to discuss too much in detail because we don't have enough time, but this is a 7-step core values of responsible AI that the World Economic Forum has released. But it summarizes and says that anything that we build has to be for humanity. We have to have humanity at the center of things. It's not just profits or the efficiency, but humanity at the center. It should be for the common good, and the process should be transparent. Everybody who are the stakeholders in the whole process, everybody has to be involved in understanding why they are building these models, what is the intended outcome, whether it is going to impact anybody or not, and they have to be accountable for the outcome if something goes wrong. And whoever is building should also be inclusive. So for example, if you have like good diverse representation in the team, then they can bring diverse experience and knowledge and their issues. So you take all that creativity into thought and then build these products. Then there is, I'm not going to go into detail because it's beyond the scope, but there's a lot of AI policy regulations at the same time that is happening. We are in the draft stage of EU AI Act. So a lot of good things are happening, but I do want to touch this part, which is the career path into AI and all of it. I think this is more important for you. So AI life cycle. So anybody who wants to like get into an AI related job, technical, non-technical, would like to understand what is an AI life cycle is, and how it is different from a regular like software development life cycle. So an AI life cycle starts with understanding like the business, understanding the problems that they're facing, and what kind of problems can be solved by the business. Solved by AI. So once you have a problem identified, then you start looking for data. So it can be any kind of data within the organization. You acquire the data, you explore the data, the ones that are good features for the target that you're using, you try to create features, and then you create that data pipeline and everything. And then we go into modeling. So you will try a different bunch of models and see what models works best. And once you have the best model, you deploy it. And then the job is not yet done. You still go back and monitor the outputs on a regular intervals. So the outputs can be daily, monthly, seconds, real time, whatever it is. But there should be like some continuous monitoring in place. So if the model drifts in any way, we know, and we kind of tweak the model, tweak the input, or understand why is it happening, and then we can make the changes. So this is a AI life cycle, and some of these are like, because you have like this bidirectional arrows, because you can always go back to the beginning, because if something goes wrong, you still go back to the data to understand, or something that goes wrong and deployment, you still go to that place. So that's why it's not like one thing is finished and you're done with it. This is an iterative process. Between data and modeling, it is an iterative process, and that is the main difference between a regular software development life cycle. So if you look at the AI lifecycle and then try to find what are the key tasks involved, there will be like a business analysis part, which is the starting point, and then data engineering part, and then the modeling part, and then you deploy the best models. And then to support all this, you need to have the right infrastructure and resources in place. So on these key tasks, and then if you look at what are the key skills that you might need for each of these different tasks, then you can see that like these are the these are the technical skills you might need. And if you look at across these, I would say there are two things that is very important. One is, how do you manipulate your data? So it can be SQL. SQL is the most basic way to assess anybody whether they are fit enough to be a data scientist. They need to know how to work with data, how to summarize it, how to extract data information from the data. So SQL is very essential. And Python or R, whichever language you choose, those are that is the language that you would use for building these algorithms. um, so data manipulation and building algorithm, those two are very essential throughout. But then if you're specifically focused on just the deployment part, which is mostly DevOps, then cloud. Recently, all of these data, like traditional data systems, have moved to cloud. So understanding of these cloud systems are important. If you know how to use Docker systems or Kubernetes, so that you don't really manually run the programs, but a system runs it for you. All the dependencies are within that system. It's a control environment. That's why you have Docker and Kubernetes. And then if you're going again for more visualization, once you have the outputs, how do you communicate that to your stakeholders, your end users? It can be through visualization. So different skill sets are being used. And if you look at the key roles in an AI team, again, this could be like a little bit, what do you say, maybe like very generic. Today, there are more specific, like prompt engineer is a role these days. But I would say that like this is high level. These roles are still there. So when you normally see a data scientist, there's a lot of overlap between data scientist and machine learning engineer. Machine learning engineer is supposed to understand the full life cycle, but data scientist is mostly heavily on the data engineering, creating the data, making sure data is correct and good for modeling, and also speaking with the business analyst. So different companies have different types of roles, whether it can be data scientist, whether it can be machine learning engineer. It can also be software engineer, machine, like, I've seen mostly Apple roles are mostly software engineer and machine learning, because they want them to be very strong in software engineer and then understand machine learning. So they write very scalable, good quality production level scripts. So that's why they are looking in that way. Then there is like starting point is basically data analyst. So how to work with the data, how to talk to the people and understand some key information. And then from a data analyst, you can also grow into data scientist. Then there is researchers, then there is software engineers. So if you are looking to enter a career in AI, then you need to have the knowledge. You need to know how to showcase the knowledge. And then if you're interested in research, then there is other pathways to do. So for the knowledge, as I said, Python, SQL, that's the basic skills that's required. Then if you want to learn more machine learning, deep learning, take courses and understand what is machine learning. You need to understand what are the algorithms available and what algorithms is used for what kind of purposes or what use cases for what kind of data. That understanding is very relevant to become a data scientist. Then statistical thinking. I'm not a very good statistics person. If you ask me some formula, I have no idea. But traditional AI or even deep learning, like there's a lot of math and statistics that goes behind it. If you can understand it, that is great. It is not a necessary thing, but how to work with these algorithms are more important than understanding the statistics behind it. And of course, if you have the domain knowledge, for example, especially in finance or manufacturing, healthcare industries, and having a knowledge about the business adds a lot of value over years of experience in a technical role. And I would say since today we are working with billions of data, how to work with those scalable data like distributed programming or instead of Python, how do you do the same thing in Spark or Scala or in a cloud system or a BigQuery? Those kind of things are also important. But again, starting step is just Python, SQL, machine learning, algorithm understanding, and how to use them. Then when you want to showcase your knowledge, the area, like the things that you could use are like Kaggle or GitHub portfolio. You can create your own GitHub portfolio and showcase all the projects that you have created along with codes and everything. So when you put those codes, you make sure that you're structured in a way that your projects are organized. So you have code, your dependencies identified in a README, and then the codes are organized, your data, your inputs, your results. So the project folder is organized, everything's clearly explained in your README. So there is that those are all things that hiring managers would look for when they see a GitHub portfolio. So if you're very organized in that way, that is helping. Kaggle is a great place to go and experiment with data, or even participate in some challenges and get those rankings. I would recommend master's PhD if you're in a competitive area where you have a lot of people who have the masters, and there's a lot of competition in getting hired. But there is also like 1-year courses available there, depending on what situation you are in, and from where to where you want to go. So masters helped me because my masters had a internship attached to it that gave me get a foot in the door in a corporate job, and then I just went from there. You can also take certifications, cloud certifications, or like anything certifications to showcase your stuff skill set in your resume. Then research is completely different. You need to have publications to even to get into a PhD, and then writing journals and all of that. So some of the startup courses that I've done are I think the first one I did was this Machine Learning A to Z by Super Data Science team. Even before I got into masters, I did all this to get a primer to understand what it is. Even though I had my undergrad in computer science, I had a break into business career. So I did want to make sure that I'm not changing my career just for the sake of it, but I can actually do it. So I did do Python for data science. When I learned my computer science at SCT, there was no Python. It was C and C++ and Java that we did. So Python, I did a course, and then did Machine Learning A to Z. This is a great program, especially if you're a beginner. They will take you through all your traditional algorithms and give you some sample use cases, give you the script and everything. So it was very helpful to get that initial foundational understanding. Then Coursera courses, especially by Andrew Ng, very helpful. Machine learning specialization, deep learning specialization. And then I also looked at some Kaggle competitions, and these are just the beginning stuff that you would need to do. So, and other than understanding, you also need to showcase, as I said, so you can pick some sample projects and then do things on your own, do it in a different way, understand what other people have done in Kaggle, and then build your own use cases. So if you're not a programmer, there are still a lot of career options available attached to AI. This mainly, if you're a product manager, project manager, business development, marketing, all of that, in your area, you can add some AI courses, and then you can do AI product owner or AI project manager or AI business development. So you're just changing the domain from being like a tech product manager to an AI product manager. But for that, you need to understand what is AI, how does AI work, what does an AI lifecycle look like. Some of the courses which I've come across or heard people doing is AI for everyone, understanding what is the basic and what is this AI lifecycle, how is it different, and all of that. Then if you are interested, you can do like some hands-on courses which are not like heavy programming related, but it can still help you to understand like the step-by-step processes involved in building a model. And of course, like in Canada, like this is so much push towards entrepreneurship. So we have so many startup accelerators, and I'm sure that in Kerala, like in Trivandrum and all that, like there are like startup incubators. If you have an interest, you can always approach them and build your own products. So do not shy away from that particular area as well. And you can also be part of a community like women in AI. I mentioned there'll be like hundreds of community in your area as well, so you can meet like-minded people and learn from each other. Listen to podcasts. See, SCT has a podcast with other hosts. Listen to podcasts or like things or the people who are influencers talk about it, so you can understand what is happening around. And then find a mentor. Finding a mentor is the best thing I've done in my life, where it helped me for a much more smoother transition into AI rather than figuring everything on my own. So find a mentor who has gone through the journey similar to you, so they will help you to reach where you need to. And yeah, and this is my LinkedIn. I think that kind of covers what I needed to share. But if you have some questions, I have a few more minutes to stay in. Okay. I guess there are no questions then. You can ask in Malayalam. I'm a Malayali only. So
Yeah, or you can put it in the chat also if you're not willing to.
I hope this was helpful in some way. I don't know if the content was relevant, but I just wanted to give a overall overview if you're new to things.
So is anyone doing any AI projects or ML projects as part of the school curriculum? Do we have anything, or is it part of the syllabus now, AI?
I think we have a very shy group here.
Yeah, please post any questions you have, or if you want, you can ask later also. We can find the answers.
Oh, friend and developer lose their jobs. As I said, jobs can get displaced, or tasks can get displaced, but I don't think jobs they will lose the jobs because of that. A few jobs which can be like completely automated could get evolved into new ones, but that doesn't mean that front end developer will lose their job because of automations. I believe that there always needs to be a human in the loop. So even if, let's say, like, I've shown all these biases, that is just a sample of it. But there is a lot of other risks that is there with using generative AI technology. So until we build some guardrails on things like that, there is always a requirement of human to evaluate the outputs of the AI, of these tools, and then make sure it is going for the right use cases and for the right products, right? So I will say that a lot of these jobs will get evolved. Some jobs can get removed, and then I believe that gets evolved is a better way to say, because the way AI is developing today, you need to be proactive and learning today, because that is going to change everything we do. So if you are a continuous learner, you try to be in your surroundings and learn new things, you will be able to survive things. Shaul's questions, yes, Python is very important, and or you can also do R, if you're like, but SQL, Python, both are foundational.
I think to the earlier question, there will be a displacement in jobs for sure, but it'll also generate new jobs. One parallel that I draw is Before the invention of automobiles, we had horses, and we had a whole industry to support horses. Now what's happened? But what happened after cars came? All those people that were servicing the horses, all the barns, everything went away. But a new industry of workshops, of puncture shops, everything came up. So there will be a displacement from the existing jobs, and a lot of new ones will come in. Another place I see where AI will cause a displacement is customer support roles, where we can automate most of it. You can have an AI that can talk to you and give you the answers rather than have a physical human being doing it for you. So those kind of automations will create a displacement, but I feel like there'll be a lot more new jobs that will be generated because of AI. Example is prompt engineering. That is a role that we've not even heard of, but now there's prompt engineering as a role itself. I think Fahad has a question. Maybe you can go ahead.
Yeah, just one question. Okay, so is classical machine learning still relevant? Like when coming to the more LLM and all such deep learning based machine learning, like jobs and all such things, still is classical machine learning relevant right now?
Very good question. So classical ML learning is still very, very, very relevant. Even there's a lot of companies that are not ready to adopt AI in the first place. They have to do a lot of transformation in their data journey to be able to do a AI. So starting point is always your traditional ML learning. Traditional ML, like just doing supervised and then unsupervised, so that the foundational data set is ready to do that. And a lot of these corporates, 90% of the work is still, like, I'm talking about like big corporates, 90% of the modeling is still classical. It could have like NLP there, like, text understanding or text summarization. That is all still there. I'm considering all of that as classical. But these new kind of like large language models or generative AI, this is a buzz at this point. A lot of companies are trying to get into it because they don't, there's a fear of missing out, but they also want to explore these technologies. So companies which has the muscle in this terms of resources, infrastructure to handle this are, having partnership with Microsoft or, Meta or Amazon, whatever the companies are, Google, and then, getting those models, access to those models, and then creating their own use cases on top of it, or just leveraging that APIs and working on it. But otherwise, so there is a portion of the company that is could be dedicatedly working on the LLMs, but your regular use cases are all still run with traditional ML. But this could change. I'm not saying it is going to be staying the same. But at the same time, there's a lot of gap in talent as well. So the skill sets, like the people, there should be people to do the work as well, right? So it's not just traditional ML, but if you are able to like advance your skill set and go into understanding large language models and then AI, then you have more demand that is there. And the demand is only increasing because more and more companies are transitioning into adopting and using more Gen AI. So I would say start at traditional AI, get into a job. If it is Gen AI, there would be like some relevant jobs for that as well. But traditional AI is still very relevant and still being used by everybody.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, just one more question. Okay, I'll ask the question after.
Now you can ask.
Yeah, okay. So the question is actually like the generative AI. Let's take the case of conversational AI. There's a huge chunk of situations when the conversational AI is too much hallucinating. It is happening in the world when we are trying to build the conversational AI. So that could at times lead to providing informations that are not relevant to the context in which that thing is used.
Yeah.
So it's been seen in most of the cases. So what do you think about that? Like,
what do I think about that?
Yep.
So I'm not a conversational AI specialist at all, but I have come across, especially using ChatGPT, which has the conversation part behind. There are many instances where it is just hallucinating, or just it is just answering things based on some sort of general pattern and not really relevant for that particular context. So that is why we are saying it is in a very nascent stage right now. It is not advanced enough to replace things that is critical. First of all, somebody had a question, therapist. So it really depends on what kind of therapist. Like if they're doing hands-on job, I don't think somebody can just go build a model and replace them. You need that physical thing. But I don't know what happens in another 20, 50 years. Like a robot can come in and do the basic things. But I believe that you still need a human in those kind of roles, like construction, painting, like intricate things, or therapist. These kind of roles are very human, and then I don't think it's very easy to replace. But coming back to your first question, technologies as we see is in the evolution phase. Hallucination is there, it is a fact, and people actually give that as a limitation as well. Like OpenAI publicly talks about it, but they're also trying to advance that technology and to reduce these hallucination and to give more accuracy. 10 or 20 years back, even a traditional model would be in like accuracy of 60% or 70%. Now that they have reached like 90, 95, 99 in some use cases. So that evolution will also happen. But that is why we have to say that we use these with a lot of caution. We use these technology with a lot of caution, and also understanding how much critical things, use cases are we trying to use this technology for. So if it is not, like with a lot of testing and validation, if it is not really giving the output that it is supposed to give, then we don't use it. We step away from using it at this point, and then do more work on that side to improve the accuracy. So that's a general answer for that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just one more question based on the previous answer that you gave, like about the resources that people partnering with Microsoft and all such things. So Sam Altman just recently came to India and had a comment about like India won't be able to build a foundational AI model.
What's that? Sorry, I can't hear. I didn't hear the last one.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Sam Altman commented about something like India building a foundational AI model would be no time near. Yeah, and Sam Altman commented it when he came to India, like in the previous two, I think. So, what do you think about that? Like, can India build a foundational AI model? Like, Acubit's a company.
I don't know what to say. Like that's not my area of expertise. I don't think that's how you should be thinking about it. You should think about your future right now. How do you want to become an AI expert?
Like
if India builds one, great. I don't know. Like it's really
India India had built like from out of Kerala. It's a company called Acubits had actually built a foundational AI model. So
yeah, that's
like
great. That's awesome. Yeah. So if they have the capacity, infrastructure, funding, all that, they can build. No, anybody can build. But it's just a lot of resourcing to keep running with it. So ChatGPT, I don't remember the number, but on an everyday basis, they are losing like millions in just keeping the model running. Okay, so that's why they need the investment from Microsoft. So it's a lot of money, lot of energy, lot of power that is going in to keep up those models. But anybody can if they have the muscle.
Yeah, I was just coming to my question actually. So
Okay.
when the
Go ahead.
college, when the college students actually choose some projects, they actually try to think of something like building a foundational model, but they won't say that in their words, but they would say like they would be building something that would predict such and such things. That's basically generating out of data that's uh, generating something that's not already available. Like uh, the idea is basically to build a foundation model, but they're presenting it like that they could do it with the current existing model. So some kids would suggest that kind of topics as their final year projects or mini projects. So what do you think about that? Kids going to these kind of extents, like
Sorry, can you
thinking about.
repeat your question? Repeat your question. What is your question here?
Okay, my question is like that. Some kids just try, not kids, the college students usually try to think of building a model, like training on their own and training uh, based on big huge data and trying to build a model like ChatGPT, like
Mhm.
ChatGPT, the
Mhm.
usual term that's being heard often when coming to the final year projects or mini projects. They would build something like ChatGPT. So what do you think about it? Without even using the OpenAI API or any other open source API?
What do I think? I don't know. What should I think about somebody else filling in a chat GPT? I'm more worried about how it is being used. So if you're building great, you have the resources, that's great. You should ideally use it for things that it should be intended to use for being responsible enough to use it. So I'm in no position to comment about India building a chat GPT really. Like it doesn't matter to me. But what matters to me more is how it is being used. What is the use case? How it is going to affect people. Um, so yeah, I mean anybody can build one. Like tomorrow you can build one. Doesn't matter.
You just
But
need billions of dollars.
yeah, I just need the money.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can take one more question and that's it. I need to run for my meetings. So
Hi, ma'am. I'm Agar.
yeah.
Ma'am, in the session, you mentioned ChatGPT creating biased results.
Yeah.
Then, what are the things that we should ensure while doing data augmentation? That is, we are training a model based on a data set created by another, like ChatGPT or something. What should
Mhm.
we, consider while creating such a data set? That our, second model should not be giving biased results.
Okay. So I'll tell you the answers based on my limited knowledge on that. Okay. So whenever we build a model, data has to go through some level of understanding or validation to understand how much of bias exists in the data. So there are certain the metrics available to mention, like for example, what is the percentage of men versus women? Very simple example, but if there is a representation on terms of um, like a community, race, age, occupation, those kind of things in your data set, whatever it is, whether it is fake or whether it is actual data, you need to have certain metrics to evaluate whether there is bias in the data or not. If bias is there in the data, then you have to ensure that the bias is removed before you use that data. So how do you remove the bias? It can be sampled. You can take a subset of the higher representation. So the representation is more or so equal. Or simply use a model that will automatically takes care of those kind of biases. And in each step in the process, like from data stage to modeling stage to the output stage, there are different metrics that you can evaluate to ensure that the bias is not populated or it is not increasing as you move towards. And these metrics has to be part of your monitoring process as well. So that in future, when there's a data drift or some performance issue happens, the bias metrics are not affected and is still intact. So that is, I mean, high level, those are the practical things that people do when working with a biased data or to ensure we're doing responsible AI.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I think we are good.
Yeah, I think let's wrap up. Just want to say thanks from ICT North America podcast team, Frincy, for taking the time out.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks to IEEE also. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Can you wait a moment?
Yeah.
Okay. Several thank you parameter from our side. So let me invite Janani.
So, hi everyone. Now it's time to conclude our session by expressing our heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for joining us today in this enlightening session. AI, the key to opportunity, led by the Frincy Clement. Ma'am has not only shared her extensive knowledge, but has also ignited our curiosity about the limitless possibilities that artificial intelligence offers. Her insights into how AI can unlock new doors of opportunity have undoubtedly left us all inspired and eager to explore this transformative field. Also, we would like to present a virtual memento to express our heartfelt appreciation for sharing your knowledge and insights.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's so sweet.
Yeah, ma'am. I would also like to express our gratitude to all the participants who actively engaged in the discussion and share their valuable thoughts and questions. We would also like to thank SCT Alumni North America for their constant support for IEEE SCT SB. I would also like to thank Atul John for his support during today's session. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Send me the screenshot. I'll keep it for my mentor.
Ma'am, we'll mail you the memento.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody, and all the best in your career. Okay.
Thanks
Bye.
everyone. Take care.